Coogs house. It may not be pretty, but it still counts the same, right?
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs Daily Podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. To on all things Cougars, where they knock off Oklahoma State 60-47, start off Big 12 play. If you're enjoying the conversation, but you don't know, tell us in the comments down below something nice you did this holiday season. We're going to do a couple things here. I want to talk some about this game and moving into the rest of Big 12 play as Houston does start off 1-0 in the Big 12. I want to talk some about the offensive struggles in this one. But first and foremost, I want to just make sure we get some time to react to what just happened because Houston knocks off Oklahoma State in we'll call it a defensive masterpiece or an offensive struggle. I don't know which, and I just realized we got the wrong guy up here on the background. That's not the best of showing, but we're going live here, so why the heck not? No, it's got TMUCC. Here we go, back here. All right, so Houston and Oklahoma State in this one go back and forth in an ugly game, and it was competitive for like 10 minutes. And then Houston switched gears and defensively locked it down. Oklahoma State shot less than 29% from the field, 10 of 35. Oklahoma State shot 4 of 19 from 3. Houston had 5 blocks, 8 steals, really mucked up this game. And I think that a big part of what was going on here is Houston is the better basketball team. Houston, moved from 15 to 14 in the country and should be higher than that with a couple more Big 12 wins very soon. But there was kind of a weird holiday malaise to the offense, but the defense, the culture, those things showed up each and every possession down the floor. Really, even of those, I guess the initial 17 points when it was tied up at 17 Oklahoma State had, most of those were transition-y kind of stuff where they beat Houston back. Oklahoma State plays with incredible pace and speed, and as much as you want to practice against that, it's different to see it live and in person. I will also say that in this one, the big focal part of the offense, I want to talk about later in the episode, but we'll talk about now a little bit, is that JoJo Tugler was in foul trouble again, fouled out with 5 fouls. He's too vital to this team to be doing that again. He was helped out a lot by the fact that his load was shouldered by Jawan Roberts. 20 points, 11 boards, really a true dominant double-double that could have been even more so. When it went to halftime and he had 10 points and was on double-double watch with the rebounds and assists, and so he only finished with the 1 assist. I was really looking at can he break his career high? I remember it was against Tulane. I went back and looked. It was in February 2023 when Tulane basically just always helped off the post on drivers. You just had a bunch of Jamal Shead drop-offs, right? He had 26 in that one. I felt like at halftime he had 10 points, and it kind of found him in this one. It's an important part of it. And instead, Houston managed to find other ways to score in the second half that weren't feeding him the ball. He still got his 20 points. LJ Cryer had a couple big threes in the latter part of the second half. Houston sent this game out to a 21-point lead at one point before ultimately winning by 13. In this game, as I continue to think about things that just caught my reaction first key off the bat. And if you got any as well in the live chat here, so I got a lot of people showing up here. Tell us down below what you got. The offense was centered around the production, I should say, was centered around 3 guys in Roberts and Cryer, and Uzan had a couple catch and shoot threes that made him over the 10-point mark. I think he finished with 12. Weird game in that you had just 4 bench points. I thought throughout the season their best player most games has actually been Terrence Arsenault coming off the bench. As much as I like to give him credit when he looks good, Arsenault had a pretty rough day at the office, played 18 points, had no baskets, 0 for 3 from the field. 3 turnovers. It looks like on stat sheet as I check over here. just not his best day, to say the very least. And frankly, I guess you could say it's encouraging that Houston wins with Arsenault playing so poorly. You could say it's encouraging that Houston wins with JoJo Tugler playing so poorly and getting his 5 fouls. I will actually say that the 19 minutes he was on the floor, Tugler was very impactful. I guess that's being fair, but he limited his own minutes with the fouls. A lot left on the bone there, a lot left to be desired in this one. Emmanuel Sharp came into the game shooting almost 50% from three, held to just 2 points. And a lot of this, I think, I want to talk about the ugly offense in the second segment. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do think that in looking at this game as a whole, it's like, okay, this offense still needs some work. And I think what was unfortunate about this game, I'll say, is that it felt like they found some things that honestly that should work. That they were doing well, finding Roberts in the low post, getting a little isolation action there with cutters. Honestly, getting paint touches and kickouts and stuff like that. And it didn't seem like they stuck with any of those things along the way here. Now, the defense won out. Defense played phenomenally. Again, held Oklahoma State to less than 29% from the field. Really, you take away transition points in this one, and Houston wins in a blowout. Fast break points, the way ESPN keeps track of it. And Oklahoma State had 9 of those. You take away those 9, this is a 20-point win. So obviously it's a little bit different deal. I don't think they're going to take those all the way down to 0. But for Oklahoma State, again, top 30 in pace of play in the country. They typically shoot in the first 14 seconds of the shot clock. To hold them to just 47 points, to hold them to such a low shooting percentage, to frankly, a lot of their points being free throws because they're attacking off the bounce or whatever, and you had foul trouble. But to hold them to just 14 made field goals in general, I think across the board here, the defense continues to show up and show out. And I guess if I'm thinking about things to take away from this game, the offense comes and goes. You're going to hope that offense comes back. Your defense is always supposed to travel. You go on the road, get up to Oklahoma State, you take that with you, and ultimately it does. As it goes, though, defense travels. Your offense did not. And Oklahoma State is a rebuilding program. Coach Lutz is in his first year, and frankly, I like that hire. I think they're going to be all right in the big picture on that one. BYU this weekend's tougher. Obviously, the Kansas game, Iowa State game, Baylor games, plural, those are all much tougher. This is not their final form. It's still technically December. They got a long way to go before this thing is over and before this thing is done. And B, this is not the kind of a game that's going to win or beat those other teams, right? This is not the team looking to repeat as Big 12 champs is, going to need to put out a lot more than this. Now, Joe Mendez chimes in with the Kellen Sampsonism. I say Kellen because he always tweets us out that all road games are street fights. And when there were three different times the first 2 possessions that Byers on the floor, certainly felt like that in this one. Defense and rebounding always travel. It certainly seemed to be the case for the Cougs in this game. I think that at some point they're going to have other things as well. Now, I will say on the whole, I think that the interesting thing to me was, as much as I want to give Terrence Arsenault a hard time about not having his best offensive day, he got 18 minutes. There were only 3 guys off the bench with double-digit minutes. So they really kept the rotation pretty tight for the majority of this game. Arsenault continuing to be able to guard in this game a true power forward, a true 6'8", 220-pound guy. Arsenault was able to cover him fairly well. Both at Usmain, the guy from Xavier we remember from before, and I think it was Dean. Anyway, he was able to cover true size power forwards, and I took that down in my notes as okay, this small ball lineup may really work if he can do those things. Right now, his offense did not help him, and he ended up not getting off the floor, not spending as much time on the floor because of that. But he played just 18 minutes. But the defense side of that was encouraging, and the offense is being stuck in the mud. It's not something necessarily new, but it's something I think we're going to spend some time talking about as we go forward with this Houston Cougar basketball team. So I want to talk some about that in a second. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Now, if Rocket Money has not helped you before, you got to check it out because they help you find all these subscriptions you might have forgotten about, didn't know you were paying for, didn't know you're paying for twice. I know it's definitely happened to me. My wife and I be looking at the books like, hey, what is this, Parker? Oh my God, what is that? Rocket Money does all that for you. It can save you that embarrassing and a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for. Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money's personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It helps bring everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over $500 million total in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. And for me, one of the best things is that subscription tracker. It's got a ton of other services as well, but I've used that to help me cancel services I wasn't even using, let alone was thinking about paying for. So whether it's the goals feature or whatever, you can all check in what you're going to do for the future, cancel your own subscriptions, and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today, rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Coogs. You're talking about Houston's big win over Oklahoma State, 60-47, and really it never felt that close. People talking in the chat here. GB Coug says, great conference win, great conference start, go Cougs. And then Joe Mendez says he liked the inside-outside game today. And that's kind of what I want to start with in the second segment, talking about the ugly offense the Houston Cougars played, because ultimately, as I looked at this game, I really thought the pace is going to be one thing. If Oklahoma State can get in transition, be helpful for them or whatever. But the ugly offense, I don't know that I saw. Oklahoma State's not a tremendous defensive team. They try and play fast, and they gamble some for turnovers, and that worked out for them. Houston had 12 turnovers. Oklahoma State had just 14. That was relatively even given the score and discrepancy in the game on the scoreboard. I wouldn't have known that those were even, except that you wouldn't guess those things were even, I should say. But as you look at the offense that Houston played here, it just felt like at times they didn't stick with what works, right? I had a coach one time that told me sometimes you just got to ride the horse that brung you. And, he'd use that when, like, if this running back were playing really well, or if we were riding the shoulders of this shooting night or whatever, that's just kind of what you do. You ride the guy that was having that kind of night. And it doesn't feel like Houston was doing that. Juwan Roberts had 20 points on 13 shot attempts. I understand that Houston's got a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of great guys on offense. I don't know how Juwan had just 13 shots. It did not – and he missed his first two. After missing his first two, he went 9 of 11 the rest of the way. He played 32 minutes. It wasn't like he went on the floor. 20 points on 13 shots, to me, is almost more insulting, right? Because to me, it's like he should have had 17 shots, 18 shots, right? Why does he not touch the ball more often down the floor? If he's feeling it like that, they have trouble covering him like that, he ought to get the ball, especially as a super senior 6-year guy. Like, he ought to be getting the ball every single time. When he got his 26 points against Tulane, I looked at the box score in the interim while waiting on some technical difficulty stuff to get ready to get going here. And he, for what it's worth, against Tulane, had a lot more than 13 shots to get 26 points. And I feel like that's really twofold. One, some of that's got to follow the players, right? I know people want to go to coaching and offense and link the two together. Sampson runs a lot of pro-style sets, which a lot of, hey, I'm going to coach you and teach you a lot before the game, and then in the game, you're making decisions, right? And that's the way he goes. That's his pro background for his time between Indiana and Houston. I guess Houston Cougars. He was a Rockets assistant coach there for a minute, one of his pro stops. But a lot of the stuff he's picked up and brought with him into this offense has been those pro kind of tendencies. And it just felt like that got him away from finding the hot hand. Now, we've seen them find the hot hand when it's Emmanuel. We've seen them find the hot hand when it's LJ. We've seen them find the hot hand when it's Terrence. In this game, the hot hand was Jawan, and I felt like he should have had more shots and more touches. I'm not upset about the kinds of touches he was getting. Again, they got him on the block a lot. He even caught the ball a couple times out at like the 18, 20-foot area and drove hard left. I felt like, you could have got him even more involved in those kind of things. And it's interesting because it brings up a flaw. I think someone tweeted at me, and forgive me if I can't find your name here. But one of the flaws in this is that as good as Houston is at getting in the paint and getting the ball dropped off, getting the ball kicked out, right? Those are different kinds of passes. The post-injury game out of this, and then frankly, getting out of the way once you enter the ball into the post, Houston had some issues with that. They threw the ball high to JoJo a couple times. I don't know how you overthrow JoJo. They threw the ball low once or twice to JVA. I feel like along the way here, right, that's got to kind of be something they tighten up. And none of these guys can't do it. It felt just like a rusty, like taking a few days off kind of game. And it has been a while since their last basketball game, and it was A&M Corpus Christi, right? So it wasn't like it was even the most like difficult or challenging opponent. They're getting back into the swing of things here. But it did, I think, impact – I don't want to say the outcome of this game because Houston won by 13. They were up by 21 1 point with about 4 or 5 minutes left. Like this game was never necessarily in doubt in that instance. But it was definitely a harder game than it had to be for Houston because of that. And if they feed the hot hand early, if they get J1 he had 10 at halftime, if he had 14 at halftime, or if he had, the first 3 possessions out the gate, I think that which at the gate at halftime, I should say, I think that adds to this team, makes this team better. I also think it's interesting that it felt like whenever they came out of a timeout or whenever you could see Sampson, like in the second half on the same side of the court, Sampson on TV, so you can see Sampson standing and coaching. Whenever Sampson got a chance to coach it up, it felt like that was when you saw the post touch happen. I think that Sampson wanted it a lot. And I'm sure that in film study between now and Saturday, they're on the plane probably very soon at this point. Let's record live after the game on Monday night. I'm sure that they will focus on here's why we got to get the ball to the post there. Here's why we got to get Jawan another touch there. Here's why Francis needs a better pass here. Here's why JoJo needs the ball there and not here, right? Those kinds of things I think will happen. I trust that they will happen with the staff. So I don't mean to say that like it's all for naught. But I worry that Houston got lucky and that this rusty game happened against this much worse opponent, right? They play a much better team on Saturday with BYU. And this Igor Demon guy his name is Igor Demon because that's, my best pronunciation of the name, but he is really a demon, DEMON, in the sense that like he's a challenging, tough, difficult matchup. And so as the Big 12 looks to unfold, or I don't know what the best answer here is, I worry about how few games like that they can play, right? Like how many times is Houston going to get away with that kind of a game? Now, I want to talk some about the rest of this BYU team and kind of this effort going into Big 12 play as Houston looks to get into Big 12 play. Let's take 1 second to pause here. Parker Ainsworth Locked On Coogs here, breaking down Houston's big 60-47 win over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Houston's defense leads the way, held Oklahoma State to less than 29% shooting. Jawan Roberts double-double led the way on offense. But I'm worried about this Houston team in a couple of offensive instances, and I'm hoping that just, getting through the rust, shaking the rust off and stuff gets them moving in the right direction. A couple comments here from EI Crabtree 77. Houston's defense outstanding tonight on the road. Great win. It certainly was a great defensive night for the Cougs. And then he also said Oklahoma State starting five shot a combined 4 of 24 from the field. Cowboys got most of the production from the bench, scored 28 of the team's 42 points. Now, I don't mean to dismiss that because I do think that holding the starters to poor shooting notes is important. But Oklahoma State's bench scoring 28 points is not abnormal for Oklahoma State. The abnormal part of that is just the first half, right? That Oklahoma State, their offensive their stars are held to such bad shooting nights across the board. BYU, and then I'm using that as an entree to the rest of the Big 12, is a much, much different type of opponent. I'm really worried about Igor Demon. Igor Demon is the 6'9" Russian kid. He was playing semi-pro ball in Spain. I guess it's pro ball, but it went in Spain. At BYU now, he's getting 13, 6, and 5, and he's getting better as the year goes. 4 other guys all averaging double digits. This BYU team is fast. They play hard. They score a lot of points. They have the 10th highest offensive rating in all of college basketball. Houston's defense is going to get put to the test. Then hold good defensive effort against this BYU offense. What that also means, unfortunately, is that you got to score 62. You've got to find some way to come out with that on the other side. And that's where I think my focus on Houston's offense tonight is found, right? Like I think that we saw the defense, seen the defense travel, and that's big. And frankly, Houston getting this next game at home is a big deal, right? BYU at home to kind of come back and get things situated is important. And I don't mean to dismiss either. I guess I should say this part so it doesn't get said. Parker didn't. Last year, Houston lost both of their first 2 road games in the Big 12 and went on to win the Big 12 conference, at least the regular season title, right? So I understand how this is already theoretically, hypothetically better, right? They've already won a road game in conference play, but that's just not going to work, and it's not good enough right now, right? The conference is still strong. This was not the strongest opponent. This is very much a rebuilding team, and when your defense showed up and showed out, I'll say it over and over again. The offense isn't the kind of offense you're going to need more of that when you go to Manhattan, Kansas. As rough a year as they've had, you're going to need more of that, more offensive production when you go to Manhattan, Kansas. You're going to need more offensive production at the end. It's about a month from now. You go to Lawrence, Kansas. You're just going to need more. You're going to need more when you go. Frankly, you might need more when you go to Colorado in February. Going down the schedule in my head now. I think then it's Arizona and then Baylor. There's Baylor and Arizona State. Those are both tough. I guess that game is at home because the second Baylor game's on the road. But this is something they're going to have to work on. And is it EI Crabtree 77 says that Cryan and Roberts played the Big Priest and Big 12 guys they are and need more consistent. And I get that. But they got to have more than 2 guys. For this team to be strong, they either need to completely lean into Roberts being the guy tonight, Cryer being the guy on other nights, whoever the guy is, and get that guy 18 shots. They didn't. Juwan Roberts got just 13 shots. Or they need to lean all the way into getting 5, 6 guys in double figures because they've got kind of a bunch of pieces that can add to this a bunch of different ways, right? Tonight, they couldn't get a bunch of guys in double figures, right? JoJo Tugler was in foul trouble. I think had he been on the floor more, he might have been okay. Arsenault was 0 for 3. Francis was 1 of 4, and frankly, I forgot it was just 4. It felt like on the floor there was a lot more. And I think what's interesting is They run the floppy set for a lot of their base. They came out and ran some horn stuff, which is essentially just moving the low post and floppy up the high posts if you're a basketball X's and O's guy, and crisscrossing the other two perimeter guys. They opened the second half by putting Milos on a wing, actually, and put him down in the corner and kind of running him as a secondary guard with LJ running the point guard. And the thought, I think, was, hey, let's get something jump started, get something going. LJ's hot, get the ball in his hands more. Right, let's figure out how to get some more offense generated. And it didn't seem to do a whole lot of anything different. It didn't seem to do a whole lot of anything different. They went small. I think small, when they went with Arsenault, at one point it was Malik Wilson. At one point it was Emmanuel Sharp. And they had LJ, and they had Milos, and they had JoJo, and at one point they had Javier. Those lineups with one true post player and then a handful of other guys, I really feel like, as you see it, I got a starred comment here. Look at us, right? Texas Football Channel. Welcome to the show, Texas Football Channel. All I was saying is, I think that when you see those guard lineups go, I like that you saw they didn't give up anything extra defensively. When you go with guard lineups, you kind of worry about getting beat up with big guys, and Terrence being able to hold his own, Emmanuel being able to hold his own. And frankly, there was one time Malik Wilson came over from the help side, and his verticality helps him a lot as well in that smaller lineup. That was all impressive. But the small lineups are made to score. You're made to space out the other team, dive through things, cut through things. And I just worry about the stretches of offense with this team where they can't score. And Joe says they can, but it felt like in this game that they turned the ball over a lot when they got to the rack. They would drive through and kick out, and the guy would just kind of catch and wait too long on the kick out. It was a sloppy offensive game. Now, I understand that it's been a long time since the A&M Corpus Christi game, and I understand that this is, every team plays these games, right? You can go watch, I don't know, Indiana went undefeated 40 years ago, whatever, and they had ugly games. You can go watch UConn's the national champion the last 2 years. They had ugly games. You can go watch anyone throughout the season in any given season, and the best teams in America will still have these ugly games. And it's been a full 9 days since the A&M Corpus Christi game. And frankly, as far as like high Power 4 or I guess 5 in basketball level competition goes, you saw Butler at the start of the month. You beat them by 28, and it's just kind of been a while since you had a game like this. I understand those rust things and still want to see a sharper offense. And I worry that BYU this weekend is going to be problematic in that. I worry that you're down the stretch, you're into the season stuff. You got Tech, Cincinnati, Kansas, and Baylor. I think in that order are your end of season 4. And those are tough, man. Got to go to Lubbock. Hard to win in Lubbock. Cincinnati's in the top 20 right now. It might be top 15 if AP poll came out today. I think they're top 20. Kansas top 10. Baylor with a couple losses is definitely still in the top 25, right? Like those are challenging things. And maybe this is the takeaway here. And AI Crab, thank you for tuning in all night. He said to give Oak State defense credit. They played decent. The 8-man rotation UH played with night seemed intentionally based on a conference road game. Oh, we got a couple things here also from Cougars in Germany. Thank you. Greens from Bavaria. Oh, hey, we should talk Cougars in Germany because I been to Germany once. I really enjoyed Munich, actually, but we'll talk. So I want to get back to Crab's comment about the defense of Oklahoma State because maybe, again, they are a team with most, I think they said only 3 returners. Most of those guys are new to the team, new head coach. They may be gelling on the defensive end in a way that I'm not fully giving credit for, right? But I'm more worried about stuff like this. Like Joe Mendez points out that Javier needs to go up stronger with the basket and start bringing the ball down around his waist, right? He's a fourth-year player, right? I remember talking about Javier as I guess the show started his sophomore year. But like when he was a freshman, I was okay, he'll grow out of that. Well, we're sitting here however many years later, and we're still talking about these kind of things, right? Like I worry about where this offense goes if they're going to ultimately get San Antonio. And the scary thing is like the defense is good enough to win on Monday night in San Antonio. Right? The defense absolutely is. Held Oklahoma State, a fast-paced team, to multiple shot clock violations. Held Oklahoma State to less than 29% shooting. Held Oklahoma State to all these different crazy defensive statistics, forced 14 turnovers, etc. The offense had 12 of their own. Right? Like, that's where this worries me. And I think my biggest thing, and the truth is I'm like a very optimistic fan. I don't think that these are things that they can't get fixed. It worried me tonight when I watched them, because we also think about, like, in their 3 losses, San Diego State, Auburn, Alabama. Not that I didn't say that in order. San Diego State, Alabama, Auburn, I guess in reverse order. There were stretches of those games where the offense stalled out. They with their close wins, the couple of them that I guess you could argue had. I don't know what close game is 20 points. It's the 13 tonight's the closest win. Anyway, you've seen moments where they go 5 and 6 minutes without scoring a basket, and then they just go bonkers later. All of that is to say, whether we're talking to you in Germany or we're talking to you in Texas, that I still think this team has a shot to run away. I don't mean that, like, I'm not like that dismissive of any of it by any stretch. I understand this offense might just look rusty, and I may be eating my words. Hopefully, I will happily be eating my words on a Saturday afternoon. But the offense and the sloppiness, it worked at Oklahoma State, and I'm really hoping that things get cleaned up between now and later. Now, with that said, we bring you later. Today is the 30th. This is the episode for the 31st, technically. Going to take New Year's Day off itself, but we'll be back on the 2nd and 3rd, getting ready for BYU on Saturday. And they'll be live after the game on Saturday as well. We'll also be talking about transfer portal stuff, some new signings, some new guys visiting in the next window, all kinds of stuff here each and every day at Locked On Coogs, except for New Year's Day. Don't check on New Year's Day. We're not coming on New Year's Day. But every other day, we're here at Locked On Coogs, primarily Locked On Podcast. It's your team every day. Go Coogs.